Do you own a pet? How would you feel if it were your dog that was encaged? Would you change your opinion on these unnatural exhibits? This is what should be going through your mind as you listen to me today. A zoo is a place where animals are kept to attract visitors and entertain, all while being forced to sleep in very small enclosures. Most people were taken to zoos when they were young, so it's safe to say that most of you have a connection to it already. My research on this topic will provide you a background on this extremely sad situation that we must deal with as soon as possible. My thesis is, zoos provide an unnatural and unfit environment for their animals and should be forced to close. In today's talk, I would like to inform you on how zoos should not be considered educational, how they treat their animals terribly, and lastly, we will look at how marine life enclosures, for example SeaWorld, handles their exhibits. First, let's see if zoos should be considered educational. Zoos deem themselves as an educational outlet for all, which I absolutely disagree with. For example, when a zoo opens a new exhibit, they use marketing as a tool to get people excited to view the animals. They have tours available and speaking guides that talk about the animals in the enclosures. However, the point of how the animal actually got there and lives in a created environment is glossed over. It's disturbing to see that this has been done in the name of profit. We have seen multiple births of animals in captivity lead to millions of dollars in revenue and donations to the cause. When you envision an animal, do you picture it in its natural habitat or do you picture it in an enclosure? Obviously, you're going to picture it in its natural habitat because that's where it's supposed to be. Wanda Embar in 2015 said it in an article by Vegan Peace, which is a website against the abuse of animals. Animals should be observed in their natural habitat, where they are living the life they were supposed to live. Showing kids their favorite animal in a cage is not helping them learn, and if anything, it's displaying animal cruelty directly to the children's face. The zoos are completely ignoring the animal's nature and selling its livelihood for business. We have just looked at why zoos should not be considered educational. Next, let's observe how they treat their animals. In the following, you will see how animals are mistreated in zoos. One way a zoo animal is mistreated is they are put in environmental habitats that emulate its actual natural habitat. This may cause stress to the animal, especially if it was taken from its environment in the wild. Signs of stress are repetitive movements, pacing back and forth, rocking, sitting motionless, and biting on their bars. In 2014, BBC, British Broadcasting Corporation, a news outlet, released an article which stated reasons why people think keeping animals in zoos is bad for their welfare. The animal is deprived of its natural habitat. The animal is deprived of its natural social structure and companionship. The animals which are being enclosed will not be able to interact naturally with the species ever. The elephant is a perfect example of this. In the wild, elephants walk around several miles a day in a herd of 10 to 12 and live an average lifespan of 50 to 70 years. Enclosed, however, the habitat is usually smaller than a football field with 2 elephants inside, and their lifespan is 16 to 18 years. That was the zoo's mistreatment of animals. We can now turn to how SeaWorld and other aquatic zoos handles their exhibits. Zoos are not the only ones who mistreat their animals and use them for profit. SeaWorld is widely known for their ways they mistreat their exhibits as well, which we will now go over. Many people are already well aware of SeaWorld's ways, as many horror stories about the treatment of their marine life have already leaked over the years. One of the most popular, though, is Duncan the dolphin. Duncan was born on August 29th, 1992 at SeaWorld San Antonio. This poor dolphin never got to experience what it's like to join or defend a pod, which is a group of up to a dozen dolphins who mate and hunt with each other. During his 16-year life, he was moved across the country a total of 8 times, which is obviously an absurd amount for a creature who's supposed to live freely in a big, vast ocean. SeaWorld of Hurt, which is a marine life activist group, said in 2019, captive dolphins routinely die prematurely of infectious diseases in marine parks. To nobody's surprise, Duncan tragically died on November 7th, 2008 after a battle with chronic pneumonia. Death by highly infectious disease, like chronic pneumonia, is the number one cause of death by marine life in captivity. SeaWorld's incredible popularity is not random. They have hourly entertainment where their marine life puts on performances for audiences that showcases their individual skills. They are rewarded for these skills during performances with food. The way entertaining marine life gets their food is by getting it after they're forced to perform non-natural acts for reward. For example, have you ever spotted a dolphin with a man on its back in the wild? I think not. We just took a dive and saw how SeaWorld really handles their exhibits. Lastly, let's wrap up. Zoos provide an unnatural and unfit environment for animals and should therefore be forced to close. Today we talked about how zoos should not be considered educational, how they treat their animals terribly, and lastly, we looked at how marine life enclosures like SeaWorld handles their exhibits. Yes, it could be fun and exciting to spend the day at the zoo and see a polar bear in a bathtub and a lion in an area the size of my front yard, but let's be real here. Whether we choose to ignore it or not, the place you just visited is a jail and a prison. Don't be fooled. Thank you.